Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're coming in from today. Welcome to Learn Plus. My name is Brenda Bailey Hughes. I'm your host of this monthly LinkedIn Live show. I am a training consultant. I specialize in coaching around communication related issues and leadership. I am a faculty partner with the Kelley School of Business Executive Education programs, and I'm a LinkedIn author. And I hope that a lot of you have seen some of my LinkedIn courses. And if you haven't, that you'll find my landing page and find some of those after we have a chance to chat today. This show always focuses on at least one very concrete skill that you can take away with you when you leave after this 45 minutes to an hour together. And then we also try to include a tip or two for those of you who work in the learning and development space, a training tip that you can take back and integrate with your trainers or right into your classes if you're teaching workshops and executive education types of courses. Your questions are so welcome during the course. There's a chat that you can drop those into. My guest, Dr. John Ullmen, and I will be kind of monitoring that chat. We have Shelby Merriweather behind the scenes who will also keep track on chat, and that way we can pull in your comments. My first question for you is, where are you coming in from today? Give me your location so I know where you're coming, and maybe if you want to tell us what industry or space you work in, that would be great. I have spent most of my adult career in higher education, worked in academia until my retirement from academia just back in May of 2023, which then freed me up to do lots more of LinkedIn work and conversations like these with amazing humans like all of you. So I see Shelby's there and getting that chat rolling for us. So again, if you want to tell us where you're coming in from, I'm from the Midwest. I am in a rainy, sort of drizzly fall day in Bloomington, Indiana, which is about 4 hours south of Chicago. For you Midwesterners, you know Indiana University, home of the Hoosiers, and how beautiful autumn is in the Midwest. So the leaves are changing and it's just really gorgeous. Rashesh is here from Indianapolis. So we've got another local, and I'm guessing you've got drizzly weather yourself as well. Shelby's in Tennessee. We've got Canada here, North Carolina. Anil's coming in from India. Thanks for dealing with the time change there and making that. We've got the UK represented. So glad all of you are here. Yeah, keep telling us where you're from while I give you a quick intro to our guest today that I am just so delighted to have. Dr. John Ullmen is an executive coach. He's coached lots of different CEOs and other executives for well over 20 years. John is a long-standing faculty member at UCLA with their Anderson School of Management. There he has pulled in lots of teaching awards, teaching excellence awards, especially from his executive MBA students. John's book, which is called Real Influence, was once selected as one of the top 30 business books of the year. And John is a prolific author in the LinkedIn Learning Library. So another LinkedIn Learning author. And in fact, his courses are somewhat legendary. When I have had colleagues that are just joining the library as authors and they're kind of trying to figure out how to do this LinkedIn class, I say, go watch John Ullmen's classes because they are just amazing. His newest course, Executive Leadership, just hit the library in the last couple of weeks or months. And I think you're really going to learn a lot about it. Today, we'll share a few of the tips from the course, but then, of course, we want you to watch that course as well as a follow-up to this. So again, Dr. John Ullmen and his new course, Executive Leadership, is here to share about becoming a stronger, more powerful, more effective leader. So let's get John in here because I know that's who most of you came to see. John, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Brenda, and great to be here with all of your listeners too.
Yeah, isn't it great how that we've got a audience from a really global audience. I see Asheville and Romania now has joined. So just a lot of
Welcome,
great.
world.
Yeah, welcome world. Exactly. So John and I went as we were getting ready to come on live with all of you. we were just talking about the fact that we were in Carpinteria, California, which is where the LinkedIn studios are. So it's where we fly to create these courses when we produce them or when we film them. And I walked into the studio that day and I saw there's this big board that always lists all the different authors. And I saw John Ullmen's name on there. And I turned to my producer and I said, "You didn't tell me John was going to be in studio." And I happy dance. And then she goes, "Oh, sorry, he's getting in the day after you leave." So I was crushed. I was momentarily crushed, John, that I didn't get to see you. But thanks for saying yes to this because now I do get to see you.
My pleasure. Sorry to miss you in person, but great to connect with you the way we do it these days, virtually.
So true. So true. And I think a lot of our learners today work 100% remotely. And so they are definitely used to that. One of the things I wanted I introduced the course, your new course, Executive Leadership, to the viewers, mentioned that to them. And I think I see that Shelby dropped John's course links in there so you can find all of his great courses. But this particular course for sure is so amazing, John. I had done a series of these LinkedIn live shows earlier this year, all on storytelling before your class released.
Oh,
And then when I
great
saw
topic.
your class, I was like, okay, here's how I should have taught storytelling. I should have said storytelling is powerful. If you want to know how to do it, go watch John's class. You've peppered that class with so many amazing stories from such an eclectic mix of industries. I mean, John talks about Wall Street moguls and he talks about Lululemon and I just so many great anecdotes. How do you build your story repository? It's amazing.
Yeah, anytime anything catches my attention, I make a note in just a file that is now endless. It's larger than the universe. And there's a phrase I have. Someone else probably said something similar, um, but short-term memory disguises itself as long-term access. Right? So someone's name, oh, I'm going to remember that. Oh, that song, I'm going to remember that quote, that anecdote, that movie, and in the short-term memory often just flushes. The next thing happens, and I wish I wrote it down. So I learned after missing them, just so many of those. I say from now on, I'm writing it down.
Love it. I love it. That's a story repository. We should all be doing that. You hear these great little anecdotes or stories that could that mean something to you at the time. Write them down because otherwise they go. At least for my brain, that's the way it works for sure. John, I think you and I agree that trust is probably one of the most foundational, uh, non-negotiable components of good leadership. And I thought that might be a good place to start the conversations. That sound like a good starting point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, great. Learners, I hope you think trust is important as well. And maybe in the chat, you could tell us, think about somebody at work whom you really trust. I mean, like if you were putting together a team and it's a high stakes project, but you get to pick who's on the team, but you're going to be working long hours and long weeks together. But this is the person you would want, you think about the people that you'd want on that team. What did they do to win your trust? What did these people do to win your trust? Type a few key behaviors. What did they say? What did they do? What attributes do they show? Put that in the chat for us so we kind of see what you're thinking of when you think of trust. I noticed that Darren Quilley wrote it that your Real Influence book is also a great
Hey, Darren.
stories. Love that. So viewers, tell us a little bit about who earned your trust, or more, not so much their names, we don't know them, but what did they do? It's the follow through. Yeah, like that, Shelby. What is it people do to win your trust? And while you all are thinking about that, John, let me ask you. You've coached so many successful leaders, great executives. What do you see in their day-to-day behaviors that you think is what makes them trustworthy? It builds that trust with their followers.
Yeah, I think it's just, as you say, it's just absolutely essential and foundational. You trust someone versus not trust them, but the world's totally different. And a couple thoughts. One thing I've learned from working with just phenomenal leaders, who've earned great trust. One thing is just to be absolutely, utterly dependable, utterly, absolutely, positively reliable. We probably, all realize that to an extent, but the thing to keep in mind is on the other side of that, and if we don't come through, if we miss something, we fall short, it's often quite different to us than it is to the other person. And that's really sticky. That's really memorable. It just gets hashtagged emotionally, cognitively, if it didn't come through as on their side, on their terms. So, you know, if you're counting on me and I don't come through, and you just don't forget it, it sticks. So it's so important. And if we fall short, if we make a mistake, immediately repair work. Get on it, apologize, build it back up. Speaking of story, I've got one
Oh,
on
yay,
this topic.
good.
Try to anchor this. And this one isn't in any of my videos either. So we'll spin this out a little bit on trust, because you ask your question to your listeners. You'll think of someone that you really
Yeah.
trust. You really trust. Okay. So there's this old legend, old tale about over 100 years ago. A tightrope walker is going to cross Niagara Falls
Okay.
on a tightrope, obviously. And Niagara Falls, huge, turbulent waterfall, and it seems dangerous, dubious. You can't do it, and then so as the legend goes, there's this reporter who's harassing this person. Like, you're lying. You're not going to do it. You're just trying to get attention. I don't believe you. You can't do it. He says, "Oh, okay. You don't think so?" The day comes. He actually does it. Strings the rope, and not only goes across, but then also grabs a wheelbarrow, sticks a bunch of weight in there, goes across with the wheelbarrow. On the other side, there's the reporter, says, "Well, do you believe me now? Do you trust me now? I can do this." He says, "Yes, I do." And he says, "Oh, no, no, no. I don't think you understand. Do you really, really believe me? Do you really, really trust I can do this?" He says, "Yes, you win. Okay. Sorry. I apologize. I just saw you do it, obviously." He says, "No, I don't think you're saying. Do you really, really, do you really believe?" He says, "Yes. Okay. What do I got to?" He says, "Okay, get in the wheelbarrow. We'll go back to the other side." And that's really what it's like. Here's the phrase to keep in mind: tightrope trust, right? It's like
Right.
the extra level is what we're really going for. And part of it is, of course, fun. By the way, just spinning out this story a little bit, if it's okay, because I'd heard this a long time ago. I can't remember when, and I just assumed it's just an old tale. It's kind of fun, right? But then at some point, not too long ago, I decided, I don't know why, to look it up. It's true. It's a true story. This actually happened. So a guy named Charles Blondin, I might be mispronouncing,
Okay.
was the first person to tightrope walk. Folks can look it up right now. He was the first person to tightrope walk across Niagara Falls, 1859.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's crazy. It was a huge event. 25,000 people.
Oh
The
my
walk
god.
was over 1,000 feet, suspended
Seriously, with a
over.
wheelbarrow?
Well, wait, it's way crazier than that. So 1,000 feet across, the water, the turbulence, the danger, over 100 feet, 150-ish feet up in the air, no safety harness, no net, no nothing. Yeah, he goes across. But wait, there's more. Uh, because it was a huge crowd being reported on. So he takes a chair and a stove with him, stops midway, cooks an omelet, and he eats it. This is true. He walked across on stilts. He's bored, just walking across. It's nothing. He had his ankles and wrist shackled. Walks across again, and
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
the wheelbarrow. That's true too. 350 pounds of cement, wheelbarrow back and forth, and then finally walked across. Talk about trust with the thing. Do you believe me or not? With his manager, put his manager on his back and walked
Oh,
across.
on its back. Oh
On his
my
back. Yeah,
gosh.
that's trust, right? And by the way, halfway across, he said, "Hey, buddy," to his manager. He goes, halfway across, he said, I'm cutting your feet in half. You okay with that? Okay, I might be lying about that last part.
That might be the exaggerated part of this story. The whole thing sounds unbelievable, but this is history. This is wow. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if there's another person in the whole world that I trust enough to climb on their back and tightrope a walk across Niagara Falls.
It's
But at
adventurous,
least,
and I'll throw one more thing into the mix, because it's a huge topic. But maybe I'll add one more
yeah.
piece. just because I don't hear it expressed quite so often. But tightrope trust, right? And we're kind of like going for that extra level of, absolutely, utterly, you can count on me, and it's proven, and I show it in my, like you said, in my behaviors that land in your heart and mind in a way that sticks and stays. And then, and the thing about trust is, like, I don't get any votes about whether I'm trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I have nothing to say about it and nothing to do about it. Trust sits in the hearts and minds of everyone else,
Right.
not in me. And we got to earn it, and the only way to earn it, because we see ourselves from the inside out, we got to earn it through action, because it's through our actions that land in their hearts and minds. They can't read our minds,
Yeah.
and then cumulatively it builds up. And so, just like on the down, here's the second piece. So one, tightrope trust, utterly dependable, because the downside is so catastrophic. Not just being dishonest, but just even in minor ways not coming through. Other
Mhm.
side of that, though, is, great news. Human nature, human psychology is, we, on the upside, if you add unexpected value. So of course, come through in ways you're supposed to, or that you commit to, and so forth. If
Right.
you add unexpected value in ways that weren't, so surprising values, add surprising unexpected value consistently, that also sticks in their hearts and minds. It's also, very memorable. It's a psychological hashtag again. It's like, whoa, it jumps out, it stands out, it differentiates in a very
Yeah.
positive way, and you don't forget it. So go above and beyond, whatever the role requires, build a reputation for, kind of, leading, giving, contributing beyond your role. Senior people, ask them, and peers, ask them, frequently, hey, what else do you need? Help them get it.
Yeah.
But the thing, and I say, let's say with, juniors, or sometimes with peers as well, mentor, coach, sponsor them, give them credit, shine a light, give them visibility, help them advance their careers. All that we probably know, and of course, keep doing that. But here's the other thing, and it's so actually really easy. It's so incredibly easy. Um, but again, it just doesn't occur. But in addition to the all the normal ways in which you might be looking for and adding value, just really have your ears open all the time for something that has nothing to do with scope of work or tasks or even work or professional life
Yes.
itself. And just a little over and above. Of course, in minor ways, a lot of us probably do that already. But remember the memory thing, short-term access. You
Right.
hear a birthday, oh, I got a big event coming up. My kid's playing soccer this weekend. Just make a note and come
Yeah.
back in next conversation, bring it up. Those minor things are just so wonderfully additive. You can feel great about it. It's true. You're being genuine. It's just taking advantage of, or covering for some of the deficiencies in human psychology, and taking advantage of when it works really, really well, things to do. But on top of that, another really easy one. Again, add unexpected value, surprise them with value.
Yeah.
Referrals and recommendations, even just so easy. I just had, I've been dealing with a lot of back pain for a few weeks. I
Mhm.
had a friend of a friend, speaking with a friend of a friend, recommends this physical therapy called counter strain therapy. I'm not a doctor, I'm not recommending it necessarily, but it was just miraculous for me. Would never have found it. Now that person, you know, I will absolutely come through for this person. I'm engaged with this person. Can I give you one more? It's
Yeah,
just
let
early
me
in my
comment on
mind.
that one though. I think that's so interesting because we get into this professional mode at work and we think that when we say be dependable, it's all about coming through on these task related sorts of things. But so often people are evaluating d- get, making that giving us that gift of trusting us based more on some personal things like, do you care about me? And yeah, I can come through reliably in a work setting for you, but there's a whole different nuance to how you trust me when I say, "Oh, your back hurts. Wait a minute, I've got the. I know a person. I know somebody. I know this treatment that might be great." Well, that just is a whole different level of relationship building, of trust building. I think that's
Yes.
so critical.
Referrals and recommendation beyond, for beyond work needs. And if you
Yeah,
get the ears for it, we're dropping clues all the time of stuff that matters to us, and that's by definition outside of role expectations. And remember, that just lands, and it sticks, and it stays. I want to honor a really, just he's coming to mind right now, an incredible example, again, from my personal life. So I was teaching in class, and there's not so long ago, there's a guest speaker I'd frequently bring in, and he couldn't make it to this group of students. He's wonderful. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It
Mhm.
turns out he beats it. So this goes in a
Okay.
wonderful
Okay.
direction. But at the time, you just don't know, right? And so I felt like I need to tell these people about this person who can't be with them. They won't see him. But in any event, so I started talking about him and his story and his path and so forth, just to pass it along. I just mentioned, he's gone. One of the students in class who never met this person, knew nothing about this person, right? Um, on his own initiative, uh, organized, just circulated a card, kind of a get well card, thinking about
Yeah.
you card. Every student in the class signed it, and he put together a care package. I teach at UCLA, the management school at UCLA. Put together a care package of UCLA stuff,
Oh,
sweatshirt and
yeah.
stuffed animal, and said, "Hey, what's his address? We'd like to send it." I mean, it's just so quick. But the point is, I mean, it's so amazing. But if that moment happens, the person has that thought. I mean, in that case, it's a bit of effort. But like, there is nothing I won't do for this person for eternity, the rest of my life.
Right.
This person is absolutely positively top of the list for me.
Yeah, if
Anything,
that student
any way I
needs
can
a
come through this
y
person.
yeah, that student needs a recommendation letter, you're writing it, right? Like,
Forever.
no questions asked,
And I
forever.
want to know, and I want to be connected. I want to, and again, it was small. That was a little bit of work, but not that much. It's so easy to
Right.
differentiate that way.
Right.
Quick exercise in terms of an activity. If people want to think about it that way, just to make this very tactical.
Yeah.
I do this all the time. Uh, Leaders, groups, team activity, whatever, with a thought partner, but real simple, deceptively simple, right? And you don't have to do it, right? But when you might be inclined to pause for a second, meeting coming up, one-on-one, small group, large group, whatever, presentation, and just take a few minutes, brainstorm. Here's the exercise. How can I add unexpected value
Yep.
before, during, or after the interaction? Have fun
Yep.
with it, brainstorm, make it positive, get creative. You don't have to do anything, right? Enjoy it. 5 minutes, you come up with a bunch of ideas, and then if one sounds like a good one, you can do it. How can I add unexpected value before, during, or after this interaction, this meeting, this presentation?
I love that. I
Real
love
easy.
that. Uh, Shelby has a surprise for us just to help us remember tightrope trust. Shelby, you got it? Here we go. There it is, the real
There it is.
life
Yeah, there's
tightrope
cool pictures.
walker.
They're
She
out there. Yeah, really cool pictures. Do searches on this guy, and it's crazy the pictures you'll see.
Amazing, amazing. I saw, Rick Mazzei. Rick mentioned that his definition of trust would include high integrity, reliable, and consistent. By the way, Rick, consistent used to be sort of the definition of trust for at least for us communication scholars. And then we realized that consistency had to be qualified because let's say you walk into the office every day, you and I work together, Rick, and every day completely dependably, completely consistently, I slap you in the face every morning when you walk in. That's consistent, but it doesn't build trust. So it's consistency with positive intent, right? So that high integrity that you mentioned first in your definition is really important. And Shakti, you mentioned that leaders that show trust in you, that you can do your job, they respect your opinions and your voice. Those are the leaders that you trust. And I think that's interesting. I don't know if does the research bear this out, John, that one way to um, earn trust is to give that trust to others? Is there a connection there? It seems intuitively that it would.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the particular research on this, but it just makes sense, right? Like if we're both waiting for someone else to go first, it's easy for it not to happen. I'm sitting back here skeptically, um, you know. So yeah, lead by example is
Yeah.
often one of the best answers in leadership land.
Yeah, one of the best way. And then Ryan mentioned that Maslow's hierarchy and that, clear down at the base of that needs pyramid, we've got things like safety and trust. And so, how am I going to self actualize and be creative and do all these things we want people at work to do if I'm just struggling to even feel that I'm safe? But if I can trust my leader, if I can trust my colleagues, that safety seems more intact. So
What a
Ryan,
great
yeah,
comment.
thanks.
Can I throw a thought on top of that? What a great comment. Yeah. So we were just talking about go first. Of course, it's risky, and but so's life and leadership and everything, right? So in that sense, yes. But a leadership version of going first, and it was it
Yeah.
Ryan, his
Yeah.
comment is
Oh, well, yeah.
remind me
Shakti
this.
was talking about they trust her. Yeah, they trust him.
Okay. Yeah, excuse me. And so, like, but how do you do that? How do you go about
Yeah.
going first? It's, hey, uh, I see a lot of potential here, or I'm really impressed with your capabilities, your skills, or I think you're capable of, um, and put a positive challenge frame on it, and say if you're interested, or if you're willing, or if that's something that's helpful to you too. It'd be great to give you this opportunity, or if you can do this, or I think you can. So looking for ways to make this positively connected, emotionally
Yeah.
upbeat, and relationship enhancing, always.
Yeah.
Not mechanical, not transactional. Well,
Right.
here's a task, you'll do it, we'll see how you do, I'm giving you trust. No. uh, we're connected here, and if you're up for it, this would be great. I think you can do it.
Right. That's how we go first then as leaders. I love that. You'd mentioned that it that if we do mess up, we've you got to get in there, you got to repair it, you got to repair it fast, and that mess up is sort of in the eye of the beholder, just as trust is, I suppose. I know in customer service research, they actually show that if you recover well enough, you actually get higher levels of
Mm.
loyalty. But it's kind of that additive value that you were talking about. Like during the process of recovering some customer service error that we've made, we go above and beyond. We go out of our way to make this right in a way you would not have even expected. That unexpected value. And
What a
so,
neat, what a neat, what a neat addition to. I just love what you're saying. In other words, okay, I was saying, yeah, if you make a mistake, you'll make it up, repair. You're saying not only that, but turn it into a creative opportunity that, like, the mistake turned out to be a great thing. And again,
yes,
just you entertain the possibility that that's possible, right? Okay, I gotta get from here to here, but how about taking from here to here? What else can we do to own this thing, and go way above and beyond?
yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
And I think it's kind of liberating for leaders because we are humans. We are going to mess up, and and once we've put all this weight on trust and dependability and reliability, and then we blow it, it's kind of easy to want to just hang your head and slunk away and be done with that mess. But instead, get in there, try to fix it, try to fix it so that it's even better.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
have that possibility that it could be.
I'm gonna get this wrong, but, like, to your point here, which I just love, is I'm gonna get this wrong, but someone out there will track it down. But something like this, I think, happened directionally, and
Okay.
it was one of the Beatles, as in the rock group Ringo Starr, when it was, you know, having goes into this restaurant, and and then there's a oh, how exciting, look, Ringo's, I'll pretend it's Ringo Starr's here, oh my goodness, everyone be on your game, let's do great here, maybe I'll spread the word, wow. And then it turns out, oh no, horrible, disaster, there's a bug in the soup, and
Oh,
and uh and it's like, oh my god, oh my god, and the word's going to spread, and he's going to tell everyone, and then what they did is, of course, at the moment, trying to make it up as best as possible. Um, but then they followed up, and then sent him a note with a care package and a bunch of other stuff, and said something like, "Oh, Ringo, we were really honored to have two Beatles in our restaurant." No, that's a story and that he can go and tell, right? It was terrible, it's horrible, about the worst thing that can happen in a restaurant, and they turned it into a huge win.
That's great. That's great. So we know that utter dependability, finding those unexpected ways to add value are certainly ways that we build trust, showing both that we care about the task oriented components of the work, but we care about the people there, even things like referrals, recommendations, and asking about the kids' soccer game last weekend, just things that show I see you as a human being, not just a performer. And and I care. I think those are great ways that leaders can build trust with teams. Are there some common blunders that you see the folks that you coach or the leaders that you study and follow? What do we get wrong when it comes to trust?
So I probably the most common thing, and I do it all the time too. By the way, I screw up all the time too. Uh, and it, again, it's human psychology. Is I think one of the fundamental challenges for us here is, uh, what we'd say, assuming good intent is good enough. In other words, we
Ah,
view, we judge, we value ourselves from the inside out, but others all view, evaluate, and judge ourselves from the outside in based on our actions, right? So we bring this intent and which is often quite positive and so forth into our actions. And when it misses the mark, what's going on inside them, we don't know, but all they got is our actions. And then
yeah,
so, yeah, I mentioned before, it's in a way, this is overstating, but like intent just is utterly irrelevant. It's not, but you get what I'm saying. It's like I'm an engineer, right? So, or former engineer, recovering engineer, and then it's like what works in the real world. Well, it's a cumulative effect. Every action, every interaction, we land in their hearts and minds some way or another. Make it positive, make it good, make it a plus, and cumulatively trying to keep adding to that, keep checking in. How's it going? Read the body language, all of that. But it's one interaction at a time. Like every interaction counts, not to freak people out by, oh my God, it's always at stake, but rather the next interaction, no matter how small, if they come out a little bit better, it's a huge win, and it
yeah,
accumulates.
yeah,
Another example came to mind. I'm not sure we have time on this topic
yeah,
to
yeah.
just go a little further, and so I'm going to frame this up with a twist in the plot if I can. So the there's a young manager named Doug, and
Okay.
he gets fired, and so now he's back out on the true. This is a true story from the beginning, by the way. I'm saying and knew it all along. Uh, just trying to keep you guessing maybe a little bit. Anyway, so the he gets fired, and
Okay.
okay, that sucks. And so now he's got to go out in the job market. That thing's not going well. Tries to get some advice consult from, and then this coach counselor tells him, wow man, you really suck at this, you're too shy, you're horrible at interviews, doing mock interviews and so forth, like you're in trouble. And so he's like, well, thank you very much, that was quite helpful. And then so I'm not natural at this isn't my strong suit, I'm not Mr. Charisma, and all that. Well, what else can I do to, let's use language you've been using to add differentiated value here.
Okay.
And so the next interview he goes, and the short-term memory thing, right? He makes a note and mentally is tracking, every conversation he has, interview, meets a person, another person, keeps track, mentally names and just something from the conversation. And then immediately, as soon as he's done, he goes to a coffee shop right next door and then just writes very, very brief, like two, 3 lines, personal thank you notes to
Yeah.
everyone that he interacted with that day for the interviews. He had 2 or 3 interviews, I think, that day, and then walks right back over and hands them to the receptionist. If you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind, if including had one for the receptionist too. By the way, here's yours. Uh, and he says, okay, just turning point in life, absolute turning point in life. He absolutely transformational. So he gets called back. Everyone is much more positively disposed. Word had spread. So the people he met with before, just totally different. Okay, this is a conga line of interviewees. Next. The factory. It's like, no, this is a real three-dimensional human being, a little more connected. They
Right.
respond better. They tell others. And then so he decides, well, hell, don't have much charisma, and all that kind of stuff, and not the world's best, whatever, charmer, public speaker, I'm not extroverted, I'm shy, I'm a little nervous, and so forth. But that worked. I'll keep doing that.
Okay.
And then, as his career goes on, he just keeps doing it. He just makes it a practice to write very brief, very genuine, specific thank you notes anytime he sees someone, that it occurs to him to express a little bit of gratitude. Remember, crucially important, 100% real, true, not generic. So
Right.
even in that first interview, just remembered something specific that they said or did. And
Okay.
then this builds over time. Anyway, who is this Doug? It's Doug Conant, who goes on to be CEO of Campbell Soup. It turned them around. They were just in an absolute disastrous state. Turns it around, and then he kept up this practice his whole career. He estimates he wrote over 30,000 of
Oh,
these handwritten notes. Just kept it up forever. And then people would just keep them. People would take great pride in getting a little handwritten note. They keep them, put them up in their office and their cubicle and so
oh,
forth. And again, so now the idea, what I'm not saying here is everyone should just write thank you notes to everyone. Not at all. Not saying that at all. But like, you don't have to be like the world's best, note writer or note taker.
right. Right.
But noticer. Be a great noticer, right?
Yeah.
And then just follow through on that other thing in addition to what's expected in your own way, in a genuine way, and on the margins. Because again, what's going on inside there? I tried my best. I don't know. It's a mystery. Intent, impact, there's a gap. Cross
Yes.
the gap with
Yeah.
adding unexpected value.
There we go. Unexpected value. Don't over
Consistent,
rely
consistent,
on
consistent.
intention, um, because intention doesn't matter as much. Now, I do think closing that gap sometimes happens if we just communicate the intention. My intention was da 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 da. That helps, but yeah, the impact is what really matters. So we've got to look at that from the other's perspective at all times, which is what Dimitri's commenting on here. Make an effort to really understand the other person's expectations. That's such a good point. That if you're expecting A and I'm just delivering B, and I can't understand why you're not happy, why you don't trust me. Well, because A is what you thought you needed for trust, and all I come in through for you with is B. That's a huge piece. So yeah, we cannot over rely on intention. I love that. I think that dovetails well with Jay Conger's classic article in HBR called Necessary Art of Persuasion, where he said managers overestimate how trusted they are. We think we're more credible than most people give us credit for. So whether you are truly trusted by your team or whether you're in the confused many who just think you're trusted by your team, it seems like all of us could benefit from shoring up our trust behaviors. And we can do that by some of these really specific tactics that John just shared with us, like unexpected value. How do you drive that? Don't over rely on the fact that I know I have good intentions. I know I meant well for you. So you should trust me. And instead, really look at the behavior, the impact, and if we do make a mess, clean it up fast, and use that opportunity. Yeah,
Berta, can I highlight something that you said?
yeah,
That is just absolutely brilliant. And you just said it really quickly, but what an amazing point. It's he said, hey, by the way, you know what? You know what you can do also is say what your positive intent is up front first.
yeah,
And it often doesn't occur to us to even do that because in psychology, they call it the curse of knowledge. You
yeah.
can't unknow what you know. And then so it's without even realizing or making assumptions about, well, of course, my good intent, because it's just so visceral and obvious to me. It's not. So like another way to just kind of get straight through from intent to impact is just say it. And but by the way, folks, you listening, you might kind of just do your own experiment in the next week or so and notice how infrequently, how rarely people at the beginning of whatever important one-on-ones or groups, meetings, team meetings, presentations, all hands, how rarely they say at the beginning, here's my intent. By the time we're done with this meeting, I want you to know the top 3 things or have a really solid plan to go forward to deal with this challenge. Or how about feeling too? By the time we're done, I want everyone, in this room, yes, we got some challenges that we're dealing with today. We're going to take those head on. We're going to peel off this Band-Aid. But by the time we're done, I want everyone feeling determined that we can do this. We got a plan and we're ready to go. And let's check on that by the time we're done, because that's by the time everyone walks out, that's how I want you feeling. So express your positive intent up front first. Don't make it a mystery, because then they'll misunderstand it very, very, very likely. What a great point, Brenda.
Thank you. So trust is foundational. There are other characteristics of great executive positioned leaders positioning themselves for executive roles. I think that strategic thinking is one that you hit on well in that course and mention a lot about. But it's almost as if CEOs, it's C-suite folks have a different mindset than others, that they're always looking so many steps down the road further than the rest of us, that their decisions seem so intentional, so strategic. And so I thought maybe we would chat a little bit about strategic thinking. And for those of you listening today and watching today, if you think of strategy as things like studying leaders and how they look to the future, if you these are some of the tips from John's class. If you think about, even if you're studying historical leaders, for example, or he recommends reading annual reports from your own organization or other similar organizations in the industry, again, to start seeing the bigger picture. Talks about asking what if questions, and one of my favorite questions that he thinks of you to ask is, what would I do if I were the CEO? And that helps us start developing that mindset. But what I'm curious about, you can put this in chat if you don't mind, is how much time during your week do you commit to those types of intentional, forward thinking, strategic types of mindsets and of planning? So is it under an hour? Is it 3 to 5 hours? Is it 10 hours? What just so John and I have a sense of the room here. Maybe you can put, how much of your time in any given week do you spend thinking strategically? John, what is it? What do you mean? What do you mean when you say thinking strategically? And who are the leaders who really excel at this? What would we see them do
Yeah,
differently than a leader who doesn't think very strategically?
no, let's not do that. Let's say positive today. Yeah, things are tough enough out there. We'll stay positive today with the time we have, because I'll go back to being my grumpy usual self soon enough. It's complex, and it gets way down with all kind. But it is complex strategic thinking. But it's also, we make it way too complex. It's actually really really simple. At least the way I've learned to think about it from phenomenal strategic thinkers. It's just simply thinking across time and space. That's it. Think across time and space. Again, former engineer. Think like X and Y axis. If this brings back horrible traumatic memories, don't worry. We'll talk like normal people shortly. But time and space. So let's say time. Past, present, future, and then space is, let's say, levels in the organization. My level, my team, my function, the organization itself, the constellation of vendors, suppliers, customers, other stakeholders, the community, the nation, the world. And so all these different levels, that's space. Space, let's say,
Okay.
is boundaries and levels and whoever is relevant. And then over time, and so typically we think about strategic thinking ahead in time and space. That's right. But it's also past, present, future. Brendan was just saying, one of the things I've learned to recommend is read big, fat, long, great biographies and autobiographies of really great leaders that tell the whole story of the whole life. And what you'll find is 1,000 mistakes, and they screwed up all the time. And just like all of us, they got to learn their way through all these things. But it's strategic. Learn from other people's mistakes as well as our own, right? And so there's so many patterns to be found in the life and times of great leaders that we're living out in our different ways these days. Anyway, think across boundaries, time and space.
Okay. Time
and
and
then
space.
and then
I
the
love
and
that.
then thought process, again, to anchor it, is we'll pick, if that's a little abstract, pick precise time frames: a year, 18 months, 2, 3, 5, 10
Okay.
years, whatever is relevant, and think specific levels, all the way up the organization or the community of stakeholders or those affected in my community and so forth. And like Brenda, like you said, you can do the mental experiment of saying, what if I'm in charge? What if I'm the mayor of this city and this organization is doing what they're doing? How would I react? What if I'm the CEO? What if I'm a board member? And then actually really play that out and sit in the hot seat and think through how you would think. And voila, you're doing it. And
Yeah.
it's actually really easy to do. And then, by the way,
We make this way too complicated, don't we?
and then don't forget, you just always get help from your peers,
Mm,
thought partners, people who think in ways that you like, or in other words, don't go it alone either. Just say, I kind of run this by you. I'm trying to play it out. If I was a CEO, or how might we think about? So anyway, strategic thinking, and then example. Time for an example, or
sure.
how are we doing on time? Yeah. I'm glad you asked, because as soon as the person that comes to mind, big shout out to Abner Mason. He's just one of my favorite people, human beings in the world, and a phenomenal leader. He was CEO and founder of Same Sky Health. We've known each other for quite a while, worked together. He's unbelievable. And then successful with that organization. Now he's chief strategy transformation something. He's a muckety muck with ground game health, so he's doing really well in this whole
Okay.
space. And his whole career is exactly this, thinking way beyond and across boundaries, and then saying what's possible if. And he takes on just the world, just some of the toughest problems, and then won't stop thinking about what are possible ways to make traction on these things. And so one concrete example. So he's one of the things he's very passionate about is innovating and advocating in the healthcare space for the underserved. So people who don't have access, might even be scared to get access or have no way of getting access to the healthcare system, so they're out. And there's all kinds of barriers, language, fear, culture, you name it. And so he says, how do we make sure those people are getting taken care of and getting access? And so, as one might imagine, those are people who, sort of by definition, they don't have a voice, they don't have power, they don't have status, they don't get noticed. And then in this whole healthcare space, as also you might imagine, with all the influence that comes in from the people with power and status, money, all the rest of it, they don't have that voice and that advocacy. But also, there's just infinite regulatory and
Oh, yeah.
legal complication. It's just unbelievable. There's
Right.
local and state and national and international and just all this and endless bureaucracy, right? It's like, even just thinking about taking on this challenge, you just get utterly exhausted. Not Abner. He's fired the heck up. Anyway, so one example among many that I just love. So he's thinking, okay, how do we help advance the needs of this group, as I mentioned? And then at the time, he's got one small startup that's struggling to get by. Well, I guess someday when a bigger, stronger pastor, maybe he'll do it. He says, no. What about now? And strategic thinking, different levels, different ways. And what he does is he starts reaching out to a whole constellation of organizations in this space, many of which are very small, hardly have any influence, but there's a lot of them. Uh, and these are competitors. So the organizations that are trying to get customers and do some difference in advocating and serving the underserved, he turns this constellation of relatively uninfluential competitors into partners, and says, let's band together, let's make a mega group, and that serves the interest and the purpose and the mission that we all serve. We're competitors at some level, but we also serve this common mission of advocating for the underserved. Health Tech for Medicaid creates HT4M, dozens and dozens of CEOs, otherwise competitors, now unified. Now they got and they got a plan, they got a vector here to combine time, energy, and so forth, and be influential in this regulatory and legal messy environment. But wait, the other thing, I don't know if it's obvious in this example at this point yet. So just imagine how hopeless it seemed from where he was standing. And he just is such a force for good, and he created this organization. But don't forget, strategic thinking in relationships too. So it's not just a bunch
Yeah,
of other
yeah.
organizations you wouldn't even think of as partners, but all their board members, all their mentors, all their sponsors, all their investors. They're now a part of the influence network too. Hey, talk to these people who are VCs or private equity, or that whole network now is accessible to unite behind this vision.
Right.
Health Tech for Medicaid. Abner Mason, he's the best.
I'm going to look up Abner Mason and,
Me
and
too.
become a new fangirl, because that's crazy. What a great story. What a great example of that thinking across space and time, which is such a beautiful definition of strategic thinking. I noticed not many people wanted to comment on how much time they spend thinking strategically, but this is interesting though, because for example, Darren has qualified that by saying, well, I just think that's just the way I think. I can't quantify how much time I spend it, because it's not transactional. It's more of a mindset, I think. And so that's a really good example. Thank you, Darren, for shouting that out. And Dimitri also talked like think like an owner. It's a mindset, and this is what helps us out. I do know that it's easy to get swept up in putting out fires and the day-to-day minutia that is life. Sometimes I noticed Shelby commented that she does block Friday time to make sure that you don't forget to do this thinking across time and space. I wonder if anyone else has, or John, if you have tips for besides blocking time, how do we make sure we keep that mindset?
You got to do it. You got to do
You
it.
just got to
No,
do it.
no,
You got to
yeah,
do
I'm just
it.
Shelby, accepting no excuses here. We all have the same excuse. We're way too busy. We can't do it, but we got to do it. How much time do we have? Just to, I'll rein this in.
We've got about 5-6 minutes. You're
Okay,
good.
so let me spin this out. I think this is so incredibly important. And let me just pause to calibrate because I want to give a couple examples. So there's a quote from Charlie Munger, rest in peace, and he said something along the lines of like most business people, they schedule themselves like a dentist. No offense to dentists, we all have dentists, we need dentists, and he says like and if you do that, you just got this color code and anytime there's a space, it's something to fill, and you're thinking that way. He says if you do that, when the heck are you going to find any time to actually think? And he says he and Warren Buffett, their whole careers, have just made it just absolutely essential to insist on finding time, they say every day, to just sit and think. A couple other pieces. One is when this really rose to my attention was quite a few years ago, coaching a COO who then got elevated to CEO. And then in the transition, he's just been an amazing leader, just all kinds of awards, top of the list and so forth. I won't call him out by name in this case. But phenomenal leader, phenomenal organization. Now has been there for quite a while. Just absolutely unbelievable, and great track record, Glassdoor ratings, best company to work for, top of anyway. As he was making the transition, how cool is this? The outgoing CEO, who in his own right, this is an institution, you would recognize it, that you're a proud institution. The outgoing CEO says, "Look, whether you want it or not, I'm giving you one piece of advice. If you want more, great. If you don't want this, too bad, you're getting it." And so this is kind of a neat. I guess we kind of know where this is going. But like, that's interesting, isn't it? The thought experiment. Okay, what's it? This very seasoned, very successful CEO, as he walks up there, says, "I got the number one piece of advice I have for you. Number one, out of all the things leading this fully scaled up, global, name recognition organization with a proud history, of all the things, what's number one? Number one, so important." He says, "You're gonna." He says, "Set aside 2 hours twice a week just to sit and think." And he says, "And write things down in whatever way, notebook, whiteboard, whatever." He says, "Your head is messy, paper's clean. Keep track of your thinking." And you can imagine, one of the reasons I love this example, first of all, the prioritization. This is the most important thing. It's, we think, well, it's harder to do your own thinking, these people have learned, than we realize when we're so busy. And you can imagine this person is as busy as any of us are. They have an impossible amount of stuff to do, impossible number of people if you're scaled up CEO. But he says that's why it's the most important thing. You have to do it. Leadership, one of the ways of looking at the role as a leader, ideally, you're spending time, more and more time, on what only you can do, what no one else can do, right? If someone else can do it, equip them, delegate, challenge them. But then in that role, what is it that you can do and only you can do? Leaders are trying to spend more and more and more of our time doing that and doing what it takes to get there. Anyway, this by definition is one thing you cannot delegate. No one else can do it.
Right.
And then we can be really blind to our own lack of our own thinking until you spend some quiet time. It's just confronting a blank page or a blank whiteboard. And so, like I say, give me an hour a week. If that doesn't work, give me a half hour. If that doesn't work, give me 15 minutes.
Yeah, something.
Put it on the calendar. Hit weekly recurring forever. Same time and a day. Put it someplace that's very unlikely to get invaded or bullied off the calendar by everything else, because it will. Right. And then just no matter how short it is, the crucial part is consistency. Keep this appointment with yourself. No one else can do it for you. No one else will do it for you. They will think for you. You don't want that. And then it's time for one more real quick example.
Yeah.
So the this just came up in my a leader I'm coaching. I love this. I love this example. And so he said, okay, you gotta try it. You gotta try it. You gotta do it. And he did. And his time frame, maybe not everyone's, by the way, but he went the full hour weekly, and it's from
Okay.
6 to 7 a.m. on Sundays. God
Wow.
bless him. And but he says, okay, I started, and he's loving it. He put a label on it too, by the way, which is awesome. He calls it like playground, playtime, mental playtime, right?
Mental
So the
playtime.
positive association, looking forward to it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go
Not
into my mental
yeah.
playground Sundays at 6 to 7. But check this out. What happens is he goes out, okay, get up early in the morning, get out, get alone. He's got a couple kids, before a little bit of quiet time. His two kids, he's got a 5-year-old son, 10-year-old daughter. They come out, they see him out there, with his notebook all alone. I said, Dad, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm doing my playground, my mental playground. They said, oh, we want to do it too. And so they grab notebooks and they're drawing and they're playing. And so it's a family affair. Like,
Oh my
how awesome is
God.
that?
That is so awesome. I love it. Okay, you've sold Shelby. She said, "All right, she's committing. She's going to make she's putting the time on the calendar." I love it.
Weekly
Harsh,
recurring, weekly
that's
recurring.
weekly
And if you need to
recurring
move it,
forever.
but keep it weekly recurring.
Forever. I love that. And yeah, what did you say? Thinking is messy, writing is neat. Is
Yeah, the
how
paper's clean. Your mind is messy.
yeah,
And again, you're
paper's
going to
clean.
we'll
Mind is
fool
messy.
ourselves. Oh, I got this. I remember this. But it's really different
Yeah,
to externalize your cognitions. There's a different process that kicks in. Plus, then you have continuity over time. You can take a look at and build on, and your subconscious keeps more track of what you got. It's just whatever way works for you. You might write paragraphs, sentences, draw diagrams, anything. But do
get
make
it in
notes. Do write.
writing.
Yeah.
Dimitri commented that when they write, talking about writing as if writing to someone is how that messy mind
Love it.
becomes clean paper. That's yeah, rather than just diagram, write a letter and write the email that you would send. Don't send it, but this is your
And make
thinking.
it enjoyable. What works for you, this is
Yeah,
not medicine that you're taking because you have to. That's why I love this example. It just came up. It's mental playtime, playground.
yeah,
And find a way to enjoy it. Write it to someone that you want to write it to. Whatever it takes to make it something you look forward to, do that.
I love that. John's class also covers having a decisive mindset, driving results, how to develop yourself, so many more great nuggets in the class. I encourage you all to watch it. John, aside from watching the class, if we need more John Ullmen in our lives, what are other ways we can connect with you or follow and learn more from you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So my website is motivationrules.com, all one word. And I'm John at Motivation Rules. And of course, with wonderful folks out there. And thank you for being here, everyone. Um, we're on LinkedIn too.
Yeah. Yeah. So check out John's class, Executive Leadership. It released about the same week that my strategic communication for leaders released. So two powerhouse courses that I encourage you to watch, maybe even in tandem, as I think they really
Heck
complement
yes.
one another.
We're teaming up. We're teaming up,
We're
Brenda.
teaming up. That's right. John and I are going to start co-authoring. Just watch for it. Folks that were here, thank you so much for your time. You've got ways to connect now with John, and hopefully a lot of you are already connected with me. Things that are coming up, we've referenced John's course. I'm back next month on October 30th with Tatiana Kolavu. She and I have a course that was recently unlocked for everyone. So whether you're a LinkedIn subscriber or not, some courses in their new pathway called Critical Human Skills in the Age of AI. We are in the age of AI, but there are still some critical human skills. So a lot of new courses have been released free under that pathway. So make sure you check that out. So glad, Jonathan, that you loved our LinkedIn courses. That's great. And and we're getting comments that this was helpful and informative from all. So thank you all. And Shelby has a closing screen that will give you QR codes to follow both me and John or to find us on LinkedIn. John, thank you so much for your time, for your brilliant stories and your wisdom, and for sharing that with the world.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. And thank you, everyone.
Take care.